Hey there, Nation. Thanks for tuning in to another Author Nation podcast. And today we're talking to Ernest Dempsey. He's a thriller writer, and he's talking about how he keeps it fresh over multiple books, the secrets to his success. So you're not going to want to miss this one. Stay tuned.
Hey, welcome to Author Nation. This is our Chattanooga episode from Ernie Dempsey's Secret Lair.
Yes.
Not only did he build a secret lair, he built a volcano to put it underneath, which now makes it not so secret. But it was on brand.
Definitely on brand.
So, should I thank Eric or you for being here?
You can thank my brother for letting us do this in his newly remodeled kitchen, yet not completed kitchen.
No. There's a little bit of an echo that our engineer is going to have to take out, but we'll do something.
You know, a little reverb adds to the richness, the fullness of the sound, the authenticity.
So a little bit of history here for those watching and listening. Ernie and I met in Chicago on a dark and stormy night.
It was a clear, sunny day in 2018.
Yeah, at the Salmore Book Summit.
Yep.
And ever since then, we've been kindred spirits. We've
Yes.
been doing a lot of stuff together. And we were driving around the South, checking out Waffle Houses, and figured we had to go see Ernie.
There's a brand new one that's been built where the old Pizza Hut was, I used to go to as a kid, and I haven't been to it in 3 years since it's been built. I feel like I'm obliged to go to that Waffle House. It's a Southern thing.
It is.
My
wife's never been in a Waffle House.
So at Dragon Con last weekend, they had like a street fight in the lobby of the Marriott between guys dressed up as Dunkin' Donuts and Waffle House employees. Like they had like a rap battle.
Oh, cool.
It was hilarious.
Yeah. Well, we're here to talk about action adventure, archaeological thrillers.
Well, I don't write those anymore.
No, that's right.
I only write golf novels now.
Golf novels. So, well, why don't we start there? Why don't we talk about your choice to go completely off genre? I wouldn't say off brand because you're pretty big golfer and sports enthusiast.
And it's a Southern story, and I always write Southern characters.
So tell me about it.
So I had this idea a little over a year ago, and I said, man, this is just a dream story. I can see the movie in my head. And I thought, surely this has been done. And I scoured the internet. I looked all over. I found nothing like it. And so I said, I have to write this story or else somebody else is going to. And so then it just became a matter of, well, I still have my schedule I have to stick to with the archaeological thrillers, paranormal archaeology, the action thrillers, all that stuff that the fans want. So I just said, well, I'm just going to bear down and write a little faster and etch out that time so that I can write this book that I felt like could be, you know, my Sistine Chapel, really. Because the other stories are entertaining, they're great fun, they're addicting, they're page turners, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, is book 24 of Sean Wyatt going to break through, right? Is it going to be an award winner? Probably not. And so I wanted to do some like real art and do like, not that those others aren't, but I wanted to do something that was different and that could really like be like this, I did this and it stands the test of time, right? And sure, the series will too, but that's why I did it. And I loved it. I loved the story so much. I knew I had to write it. And so it's done really well up to this point. And it's crazy because only about 5% of my readers bought it. And yet the momentum has continued to build.
So making it just, you know, you've been around a while. You've heard all the ways of success, right?
Yeah.
We've probably more than anybody have been a student of this stuff, and going and doing this was against a lot of the tenets of like how to build a career.
Yes.
What went through your mind thinking through that? And then like, when did you know things were working the right way, or that it was going the way you wanted it to?
So first off, it wasn't like, it's one thing to genre hop to an adjacent genre, right? This was not an adjacent genre at all. It's completely out there in left field, and everybody said that. And all, you know, all my author buddies in the same genre were like, "What are you doing?" You know, and I said, "I think the story's that good." How did I know? What did you say? How did I know when?
How did you kind of know when things like, there's a point where you don't know if it's going to work or not when you're writing it, it maybe feels good, but like nobody's seen it. But like, when did you start feeling that things were working out for this story and that it was going to actually get the traction in the marketplace?
About 2/3 of the way through the book, or about 50% through the book, somewhere in there, when I was crying, when I ended a chapter and like weeping and bawling, right? I said, this story really does have a great shot. I know it's shooting for stars to get into the top 10 in the whole Amazon store, but it's worthy of it. And because the emotions are there, all the players are there. The characters, everybody can relate to all these characters, from the young ones and the young love and the budding romance to the challenges of this poor kid trying to make it in a rich world. And then, this old guy who's been at the other end of his career, who's had nothing but like disappointments, just earth-shattering disappointments after another. And their tracks are similar, but from the opposite ends, right? Mm-hmm. And there's this collision. And then the final chapter, when I wrote this, it's so funny because I've had this review sent to me, and it's on Amazon a few times, but it's been sent to me 5 or 6 times. But I said, when I wrote the final chapter, I was writing it through tears because I see it happening. I'm a really emotional person. And when I hit that button, I just went, and I pumped my fists like I'm watching it happen, and I'm crying because it's like I was watching the Masters' greatest story of all time, right? Mm. And so I just knew right then, I'm like, I don't care if anybody in my list pre-orders this book. I don't care if it doesn't look good out the gate. And it struggled out the gate, but I knew long term, once the word started getting out, that it was going to do really well, because it is a great story. Mm. And I don't say that as like a cocky writer that thinks that I'm the best. It just was that I felt like I didn't write it almost, and that's why I sound so confident about it. So did that answer the question?
Yeah, you did. I think that, one thing that you've always been honest and real about is that your career has had ups and downs.
Yeah.
Right. And, that's not how it's supposed to be in Authorlandia. We all it's all rainbows and everyone goes right to the top, and it's just scale.
Stairs only go one way.
Yep. And we just scale like a Facebook ad.
Yes.
So I think that, you've had, how long have you been writing? 2000.
So I published my first one in 2010. So I go all the way back to the days when the Vanity Presses told me, when I asked them if they could format for Kindle, they said, we don't think that's going to work. we don't think Kindle's going to be around long. So I had to learn it. I had to learn to format on Word, HTML, and took hours. And now Chesson software or Vellum does it in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And I tell these up and comers about this, and they're like, that sounds awful. And I'm like, it was, because I don't code or do anything like that. And
yeah, some of the stuff back then, I remember working on Suze's book, and just to find the information.
Yeah, I know.
It didn't work. It wouldn't accept the file, but what do I do now?
And there's not a YouTube video for it.
No.
You found some deeply rooted Kindle board thing about it. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. This is going to be harder than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have been nice if they'd be like, yes, we can format for that.
Yeah. And her first book had a bunch of pictures.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And that's still tricky to this day.
Yeah.
So back then?
Oh yeah. It was you had to go and turn it into you had to go through this weird backdoor thing for textbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That would be awful. Yeah. I don't know how you did that.
Yeah. Well, it was just sheer stupidity. You didn't know any better to just give up, right?
And like I said,
it's not going to take another 8 hours, is it?
Like I said, I was one of the first ones on board with Kindle, way back then, as an indie, right? Mm-hmm. And I did get people asking me like, do you know how to get illustrated books on Kindle? And I'm like, nope. I barely figuring out how to do text.
Yeah. So help people think through who maybe in a downturn in their career, some of the stuff that's helped you to kind of get through some of the, perceived downturns. Because you and I have talked, and we always, you always come at it, it's like a, like rebuilding, or, there's a reason why things aren't going, specifically the way you were thinking, right?
So the number one thing that I think hits a lot of authors is like the ones that are seeing success, great success, and then all of a sudden they're knocked down a peg or two, and they don't know what's going on and why. I think a lot of them have gotten complacent. I know that, again, I'll sound cocky, but like, I know that back about 5, 6 years ago, I was probably one of the top 25 marketers of authors in the world. Yeah. Right. Like I just was. Yeah. You saw my ad spend in 2018, 2019.
I was telling people to do your stuff. Like I'd hook you up with people. Yeah. I remember.
Right. And then what happened was the game changed. I didn't change. And then at the same time, I opened up new series. Right. So I got complacent on my marketing. And then I'm risking short-term profits for longer-term gains with more IP, which is, I still stand by that, and I think it's the right move. But I did get complacent on my ads. I kept trying the same things over and over again. They weren't working. And so then, and you and I talked about it, and you're like, look, you're going to be more profitable if you just cut these off. And I did. And I actually gave up. And then that's the second thing. These authors, they give up on the marketing side of things. And you need to take a step back. And again, as one of those top ones, you get to that complacent mindset. Well, like, I know all this stuff. There's nothing I can learn from anybody else. But the thing's always evolving. And so you do need, when you start to struggle, you need to say, like, what am I doing wrong? And is there someone doing something right? So for the marketing side of it, definitely, that's not advice, but that's sort of something to listen to and think about. As far as the writing is concerned, I was just talking with an author he's an up-and-comer and great guy. I love him. He's from Australia. And, he's got like over a dozen books out. And he was talking about his sales struggling. He's just not sure if he's should give up or whatever. And I said, look, you have the gift of telling good stories. You're a knowledgeable entertainer. You know everything about film, and you know everything about development of stories, character development, how to tell it. What are your stories about? Well, I've got like 12 that are creature features. I've got 3 that are this. And I'm like, none of the things that you told me are going to be evergreen content. They're going to, in fact, like creature features, when you said that, I was like, well, is this the 1970s? and I wasn't giving him a hard time, but I was like, listen, dude, that is never going to put you in the top 1,000 or 2,000 on Amazon. And I'm not saying you can't write your passion, but I know you have other passions, right? He said, well, I have thought about writing a psychological thriller series. And I said, dude, that is an evergreen market. I've considered the same. I'm just too busy, and I have a background in psych. So I know I've seen some crazy stuff in my studies. I could definitely do some good stuff there, and maybe some down, when I retire, I'll do that. But I said, that is an evergreen market. It's been around since Single White Female, since Fatal Attraction, since, all these great films, great books, and you can always come up with something freakier, right? The human mind is just infinitely weird. So I said, and they crush it. Look at Frida McFadden.
Oh, yeah.
Just dominated this year. Like every time I looked at the charts, I'm like, I want to be her friend. Yeah. Like, just to like listen in, right? But, and several other psych thriller authors doing super great. And so I said, if this is something that you're interested in, you could write standalones, you could write a series, you could write a trilogy. I would recommend standalones to start off because everything will stay fresh going forward. Those aren't usually like characters you follow in a series unless it's episodic. And I said, and then number 2, again, answering your question is stay persistent with it. So it's like that whole thing of like you dig for gold, and this miner bought this lot, and he's digging for gold, and he's digging for gold, and he just gives up, and he sells the mine to some guy who comes in and like sticks his shovel in like 3 inches and finds the mother lode of all time. So like when I was writing, and I'd written my 7th Sean Wyatt book. So I had, I came up in the time, when Amanda Hawking was crushing it, and these other indies were starting to do, like Hugh Howey started doing well. And I met him last week at DragonCon, super nice guy. But I was like, okay, these people usually hit it big on like book 5 to 7, right? In a series. I pushed out book 7 in Sean Wyatt, nothing happened. And I'm like, okay, well, now what do I do? And now I'd quit my job, I guess I was close to quitting my job. I hadn't quit it yet, but I was like, I thought this was going to be the thing, right? And I had set my mind on that number. Do not do that, young grasshoppers. There is no set number for you. It might be 20, it might be 10, it might be 5. Who knows? But you have to keep pushing, because if you've got people telling you your stories are good, right? And there's 1 or 2 of them, or there's 10 or 20, then there's 100 million like them. And you have to persevere and push through that. And as long as you're in an evergreen market, it may be a branch of romance, it may be a branch of, adventure, any one of those things. Look at the sea thrillers that those guys are just dominating with, right? Stinnett and all those guys are crushing it in a genre that you'd think is itty bitty, and it's like, no, people love Magnum PI, right? So just find that evergreen thing, and if you're persisting and you're not seeing movement, sorry, I'm being so long-winded.
No, I was just thinking like that's why I don't go on boats, because I've read some of those guys, but it's always drug dealers and money launderers on these boats, these one-day charters.
It's like Ozark on the seas. But so the first thing you look at, is your market going to sustain that, right? Is it a big enough ocean that there's so many people that read this voraciously all the time? Then great. Now it's just a matter of you putting in the effort over and over and over again until you succeed. You can't go to the gym and work out 6 days a week and not get stronger. Even if your form's wrong, even if you're one of those goofy people that's doing the exercises wrong, like something's going to get stronger. So,
well, I did a podcast with Jerry Riddle and John Logston, who
love Jerry.
Started, similar times. And one of the most poignant things that Logston said was, because he left AOL, a big corporate thing, to write. He's
I heard about that.
He's worked way, way, way harder on the writing thing, but he would never go back to the old job. And I think that's another thing that gets lost in this thing, is no one said this was going to be easy work. It's like the fact that what you just described of somebody figuring out what their voice is, what their writing style is, which they can do on the job. Like, that's the crazy thing, is you actually get to like publish books and get them out there, to figure out what it is that resonates with an audience. Like it's real live market testing in the largest market in the world. It's actually pretty amazing.
And look, I didn't quit my job until I'd been writing on the side for 5 years. Really writing for 7 years on the side. I published in 2010, so publishing for 5 years. But I was still working, so I was waking up early to write, working on my lunch break, and then working when I got home. And that sucks, but at the same time, like that's how you put in the work. And it's the smart way to do it, because it teaches you how to write more efficiently and use your time more efficiently, which you forget when you go full time. And it also, you also know you've got the safety net. And some people say, well, if you don't go all in, you're never gonna. And that's not true. I think it's smart. I told this guy in Australia, I'm like, look, I know you don't want to pick up side work, but if you need money, go out and you get a job. There's no shame in it. Go out and work while you're continuing to hone your craft, build this catalog, do what you know you can do on the side. And then once you've got steady income coming in, maybe you cut back on your hours a little bit, spend more time on this. And then once you've like skyrocketed, which will happen because you've got the skills, you just got to do the time, then you can walk away from the job. But it is, I will agree with what Logsdon said. I worked in the public school system for 12 years. I never worked as hard in a school day as I do in this. And maybe the school system's like, yeah, we know. You like half-assed everything, Dempsey. That's why we wanted you out. But it's true. Like, in no job I've ever had, and I've had lots of them, it's the most difficult and sometimes the most stressful.
But the one you want to keep doing.
The only other job I would ever want than this is either being a soccer broadcaster or a soccer head coach in Europe. That's it. So, well,
not a Formula One driver?
No, those things aren't going to happen. So maybe I could be an owner of a soccer team.
There you go. Yeah.
I'd have to get them.
Then you can tell the coach what to do, and you can't do anything about it.
You're doing this wrong.
Let me tell you.
Let me do my job. You just scored on you again.
Yeah. I think what gets lost in this whole thing is that it's a startup business, right? And if you're running a startup, you have to conserve resources, right? So one way you can do that is, do it. I don't want to say side hustle, but, have another thing that's going to be helping you along. Yeah. Or know that you have, if you're the kind of person that's like, no, I just have to burn the ships and go, know how much money you have. Yeah. But, and I think this is true of all startups that we've lost in the culture, that it's the real idea is to stay as small as possible till you find the thing that works that you can scale. Yeah. Too often now it's like, well, I just got to scale as fast as I can. It's like, well, you don't know if any of the stuff is scalable. Like we were talking at lunch about some of the genres that people are writing in. It's like, that's great. That's your passion, but it may not be scalable. And not to say you shouldn't write in that, right? You can write in that, but understand that could be a limiting factor into how much money you can make.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I can say on the podcast, but like I won't say specifics, so that way I'll protect myself from cancel culture. But you cannot change your brand or create a brand that only serves a fraction of the market. You can't build it on that. You like the creature feature thing. Mm-hmm. Is there a cult following for that stuff out there? Yeah. What's the readership for it? 50 people worldwide? I don't know, 1,000. The world's a big place, so there's a lot. But your challenge is going to be finding them because they're going to be so scattered.
Well, I've observed it in niche genres of, say, romance, where that genre can support quite a few people making a living. And then something happens where that one author in that genre gets some high visibility, and there might be a shift in that genre. There could be more people that come into it, but it's never like, okay, now, science fiction romance is, I'm saying this and I'm thinking, well, romantasy, what's happened there, that there's clearly that has grown. Right. But that's the exception, not the rule. Yeah. Right. You can't bank on that. I know there's a lot of people that are very convicted and they'll be like, no, I'm going to make it that this genre will now be the next biggest thing. But understand the laws of probability are against you.
Yeah. That's the whole point that we were talking about, is you want to stack the odds in your favor as much as possible, because you are taking a risk. Even if you're keeping a part-time job or a full-time job and you're doing this as a side hustle, your best chance for success is it's still a risk of your time, your free time, and you're going to pay for editors. And if you can't design covers, then you pay for cover designs. And so all of that takes time and a little bit of money at first. So you conserve those resources, and then you stack the odds in your favor by going into an evergreen market that you know is going to work, or at least a branch of it that will pull people from there. So like my archaeological thrillers that I'm most known for, was an easy segue to action thrillers with a hint of history to them and artifacts and stuff like that. Did it bring 100% of my readers from that list over? No, about half, sometimes maybe 40%. That's good. I can build a second career base on that, because I started with less than that with the Sean Y. I started with nothing. So I'm already ahead with the Dak Harper series. Same with Paranormal Archaeology, same with Gideon Wolf. And Gideon Wolf was a big jump because that's like, shapeshifter stuff, but he's an archaeologist, right? So there were still some people curious enough where I wasn't starting at zero. So now I'm pulling in urban fantasy fans, paranormal fans. And is it crushing it? No, not really, but it's also not losing money when I launch a book. So,
well, I think that's also being realistic about results, right? Like, when those books first launched, if I remember right, they were landing 4,000 to 12,000 in the store.
Yeah.
Right. Like you do the math on that. That's the top 1% of all books, right? Like it's, you get a little
money, but
yeah,
it's like,
but my point is that those launches weren't 200,000 in the store. Like
no,
you were starting from scratch. Like
no,
there was leverage there from your existing audience.
And I have readers that email me and message me on Facebook that are completely out of the typical demographic bell curve that reads violent. I mean, almost comically violent, the Gideon Wolf series. Some people are like, what is wrong with you? Like, you just field goal kicked this head down the road with a werewolf or something. And I'm like, and then the comment in that story was wide right. And they're like, what? That's sick. I have old women that are readers that you would think would abhor that. And they're like, when's the next Gideon Wolf book coming out? I need some Gideon Wolf in my life. It's first person, past tense. I break the fourth wall. It's like nothing I've done, but it fits that genre. It's kind of Deadpool meets, shapeshifter stuff, and without the profanity, because I still don't cuss in my books. But it makes some money. It lands 4,000 to 10,000. Occasionally it gets, it'll hit that bestseller on launch day and then, pulls back pretty quick. But, it's just, again, I'm just going to stay persistent. I'm going to write one of those a year, and Dak Harper a year, a Sean Wyatt a year now, and I've got a balanced schedule. And sometimes I'll push out 2 of one. And if I carve out time, I take a little risk on that golf novel like I did this year, which it was very strategic. I knew I may not break even on this one. From like the edits, the cover design, the ads, it was like, this may be the first one I lose money on, but I believe in the story. So, but I risked it carefully by planning my time. So
it didn't impact the other stuff.
Didn't impact. I have a full release schedule for this year that didn't get touched.
So, this is a big one, but we'll kind of close up on knowing what you know now. Like if you were starting over.
I don't know.
What would you do? How would you do it?
Well, I can't comment on what I would do exactly because that's like the NDA thing I was telling you earlier that I'm working on. We'll talk about it in 2 years at Author Nation. Maybe I'll do a live stream for myself.
So if you want to know that, here's what you do. You find Ernie at Author Nation and you get him some whiskey.
Some people tried last year. They were trying to get me to talk last year, and I said, no, I still don't have the data yet. So that aside, if I was starting over again, I think more of the same of what we just talked about. Like the first thing you need to do is look at you. So it's all analysis to start. What do you really love? What is your soul calling you to write? What do you feel like, if you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is, or just nothing, there's just something inside you, a spark that's telling you to write this story? Then you say, all right, are other stories selling well like this? What's the market? Start looking at the genres, the categories, the subcategories. Look at the rankings, and can you create that piece of art and not care if it sells? Yes, but then you can't complain if it doesn't sell later on. Can you do passion projects and get lucky? Absolutely. But if you're wanting to do this as a career, you can't depend on luck. So you do need to analyze your chosen thing you want to do with the rest of the market. You don't worry about the competition, because the competition, like a lot of people get tied up in, and I use Publisher Rocket, I use Chesson's product, but I don't worry so much about if it's a hard category to go into. I just want to know if they're doing well and how many people are doing well. And if they're doing really well, then I know I can carve out a little piece of that pie, and I don't have to get it all at once, because I'm going to write more than one story, and I'm going to take a little piece of that pie at first, and then more and more as I write more stories, and I will work my way up that ladder. And I think that that's how people need to look at it. So,
yeah, I think that that's a great, strategy. Is, it's not trying to hit a home run, right?
Hit singles, get bunts, get batters on base, runners on base.
Yep, get runners on base and learn, right? Like,
you play small ball to start.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. Maybe the next book should be a baseball book.
I've thought
and then
about
you could
it.
use all those.
I have one that's been needed to be written. It's a true story about a guy I worked with, and I just have to work out the rights with him, because he tried to tell me one time when I was working with him, he said, "Dempsey, I want you to write my story." And I said, "How much is my cut?" And he goes, "Cut? You're not getting a cut?" I'm like, "When I'm not writing the book." So if he'll go halvesies with me, I'll do it.
Now, here's what I think. I think you and Jay Falconer should get together and just write.
The world would explode if we did that.
Yeah.
I love Jay.
Yeah.
I text him all the time.
I can't think of two bigger sports nerds, like the Rain Men of sports.
We're texting about hockey, football today. Yesterday we're always texting basketball, college, not pro. Yeah. I don't care about pro basketball.
So that's my call.
And the last part of my answer is, you do need to do some kind of marketing. Obviously, like you can't just drop your thing in the ocean and hope that like a ship comes along and somebody grabs it. So I tell people this all the time. Coca-Cola runs advertising. Why? Well, they don't need to. You like Coca-Cola or Pepsi if you're one of those freaks. And but
we are in Georgia.
We're in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
You're in the South.
From Chicago,
You're in the South, so
you're all along that march we did back a few years ago.
I do have that tomahawk in my car. So, but you do, like, if Coke's running ads, then you should run ads. It doesn't mean you should just throw stuff out there. You should start learning about it, and you should start learning what successful people are doing. And there's lots of places to do that. There's lots of online courses that teach it. Some of them are doing it right. Some of them are sort of doing it right. You can compare and see how it works. But this is where a lot of people get stumped. It takes a lot of testing. And I didn't like seeing failure. And that's why I didn't change a few years back. Because I would test, it would fail, test, it was failing. Third time, no, that just doesn't work anymore. And that's not true. Like, I've got profitable ads running right now. But it took me 11 tests to get 2 of them.
Well,
right?
and we haven't talked about this, but that we could name a few names of people that were big deals in advertising that they quit.
Yeah.
Right. Because what they didn't learn a new system.
Right.
And what they were using worked really well.
Yeah.
But just like you found out, we all adopted similar things. Everything regressed to the mean.
Yes.
Right. Those platforms are designed to make money.
That's right.
So,
well, and the platforms are always changing. So, like, you have to roll with what the platform wants.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, which is going to require more failures, but the thing is, like, again, baseball, like the best hitters in the world only get hits 3 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
You're an MVP if you do that.
Yeah, right.
So, and you're highly paid. So if you can endure the failures like the Thomas Edison thousands of light bulbs and all that stuff, I mean, could you imagine sitting around and like, that light bulb didn't work? I mean, how many hours and times till you think maybe
Go get me some horsehair.
Maybe I'm crazy. Like, maybe this is the dumbest idea of all time. But no, you have to failure. At least if you're learning, hey, that didn't work, I'm going to tweak this and test this thing. And it's never been easier to do that fast.
That's true. That's
So,
true. I think that while a lot of people would say the market is harder than when you first started.
Way harder. It was the Wild West back then. Like when I launched my first 2 books, like relaunched them, I was getting 6 sales a day with no ads as an unknown with self-designed, self-published covers with terrible edits. And now it's like this, it's what it is now. You could never do that.
But here's where I'm going with that is it is today still the easiest addressable market there has ever been in history, right? Like it doesn't cost, yes, it costs money, but it doesn't cost nearly what it used to cost in time and money to go and test that market, right? And you're getting real market data. It's not like you give a book to a publisher and then they come back and say, well, we don't really think it's going to hit because some people in an office decided. It's like, no, you can put it in the market and get data of the market, right? The Amazon is the market, right? So,
Look, James Patterson is not the greatest writer in the world, and neither are his ghostwriters. But he makes $98 million a year or something like that, $80 million a year, some high number. Maybe it's $100 million a year now, right? If he can do that with writing 3.5-star books, low 4, high 3-star books, then why can't you? When you're writing 4.5, 4.3, 4.4. And so the readers are there. They're never going away. The economy could crash, and there's things that people will always want. They'll want entertainment. When during the housing crisis in 2008, GameStop stock continued to go up because people would not give up their entertainment for video games. So don't buy that stock now. But
we are not giving stock tips.
Stock tips for authors course with Joe Solari and Ernest Dempsey.
It's like our gambling for authors course.
That's right. If you loved gambling for authors, you're going to love stock market.
If you have any money left,
if you've got anything left from that venture, we've got a sure lock winner for you. But yeah, so entertainment again. Is the thing that I think people will always hold on to because, especially when times are bleak, life's hard enough as it is, and if it gets harder, you need a story of hope. You need a story of revenge. You need a bank heist because maybe we'll file that under reference, right? But people will always. I think that they will always want that. Yes, is it discretionary income? Yes, is it a thing that they might cut out? But it's also, we indie authors especially price our things usually fairly, right? For the value that we give, for the price that we give, even the ones that are pricing their things at the top level now, it's still a value because some of the biggest names are overpricing their things. So,
well, the twist I would put on that is that certainly entertainment has gotten bigger and bigger, and there's more and more channels that there's ever been. But what there is less of, and where indies can play, is in the creation of original content. Yeah. Because there isn't a lot of original content. Anything you look at what's coming out of Hollywood is mimicry, right? It's rebooting everything. It's old stuff, or they're going to other sources like comic books and redoing that, right? So if you can come up with original content, you've got opportunities in the future that we can't even perceive yet.
You can't perceive them. That's 100% right. Yeah. And I believe in that because I know that, look, money is easy to make.
They make more every day.
And they keep printing it. They do keep printing it. But, I read a thing where there's enough money in the world for everyone to have $1 billion. And I know someone said to me, well, if everyone had $1 billion, no one would be rich. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but we all know that it's also not going to happen, right? Not everyone's going to, but you know that pot is there. And I'm not turning this into write books for money, the Kindle Gold Rush thing. It's not that. It's just know that if you want to make a living doing this, you don't have to make $1 billion. You don't have to be J.K. Rowling or James Patterson, but you could maybe get to that level. Right? And you don't even have to be an all-star. You could just be really good or just decent. If you've got cool enough, like you said, you've played with the creative content and that creating something so new and cool that people just love, you can be that big.
Yeah, that's how it happens. It doesn't happen when you're setting out to create a recipe, right? If you look at it,
right.
you and I could go down a list of names of people that have crushed it, and they would tell us, or they've told us, or, you know, that they didn't expect it to come, right? Like they knew this was a great book, or they loved the series where it was going, but it was how it resonated with their audience, right? And then that audience doing the heavy lifting, right?
Like the guy who created the Cronut. I mean, have you had a Cronut? Oh my goodness. It's amazing. And it's one of the most amazing, it changed the paradigm of pastries. So it's a croissant donut. It's layered and layered and layered and buttery and not healthy, but it's the best thing you'll put in your mouth if you get a good one. And not many people can make them right. But this guy was playing with his art and created something that was so good and so new, and that people were like, it's a donut and a croissant? That sounds like heaven. I'm not a big donut guy, but I love cronuts. So again, he was playing with his art. Maybe it's not relevant. You're looking at me like I'm crazy, but I think it's relevant. It's relevant. The Cronut is always relevant.
Write the Cronut.
But yeah, write your Cronut. That's the point, is like you can, as long...
I think we just found the title for this episode.
As long as, caveat again though, as long as it fits into that market that you know is a paying market that's there. You can't do it in like some like tiny little place where you like 6 people will love that idea.
Yeah.
It's got to be new and fresh and cool, but also that
it's scalable.
It's got to speak to it's got to be scalable, that speaks to a big enough readership.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, it's great having you on. You want to tell people where they can find you and what the latest and greatest is from...
I thought this was a 3-hour interview. You said this was going to be...
I got to get up and get to Nashville.
You said this was going to be the Rogan of author podcasts.
No.
In my brother's remodeled kitchen. Okay. What did
like Mark Maron used to have everyone meet in his garage. Like we go to other people's garages.
I love it. So
just so people know, there was a chance that this was done in a wading pool.
It could have been happening.
It could have been in a golf cart.
Yes.
We settled on a recently, not completely remodeled. We still have,
and they're
still
moving,
need appliances.
And they're moving in tomorrow. So maybe they'll
with a newborn.
Yes. Might still be in the hotel tomorrow night.
I think so.
Yeah, you can find me ernestdempsey.net. You know, Amazon, obviously, just go there and look up Ernest Dempsey, or, you know, facebook.com/Ernest Dempsey. My Facebook page is connected to a group called Hunters and Runners, which is an awesome fan-run group. Allison Valentine does a lot of work to like engage with people. She runs contests every month. We do exclusive interviews on there. Everybody shares cool stuff about new discoveries from archaeology or history or just cool things. And it's a wonderful group. So highly recommend, if you like archaeological thrillers or history at all, definitely dive into that Facebook group, the Hunters and Runners group. And it was you that gave me the idea for that. And then Allison's made it go. And I know James Slater's done a lot with it too. But I have to thank you for that. It's a wonderful little community. So
it's the fans that did the work.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the cool part, is when they get some place to play, they play well together.
Yeah. So.
Awesome, man. Well, it's good seeing you in your hometown.
Yeah, it's nice of you to be here.
Yeah, you never know when I'm going to drop by.
You never seen my house, and I didn't even let you in because it's all cluttered right now. And your wife that's her job, is to declutter things. Your head would have exploded.
Well, with that, we'll end on that note.
With your wife's head exploding.
But yeah, all over these new floors.
And it's all white.
It's not going to clean up well. Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on.